No fences, no guard tower, or, no cottages, so nothing looks familiar. No front gate, doesn't leave anything. It's not like we wanted to come here. We didn't want to come here. We were forced to come here. We were brought here by the government.
Probably 90 to 95% of Americans do not even know this happened, do not even know that the United States went hostage shopping in Latin America and took Latin American citizens.
Art Shibayama was just 13 years old and living comfortably in Peru when he was forced out of the only home he had ever known. During World War II, the United States government, in collaboration with several Latin American countries, orchestrated the forced removal and internment of over 2,000 persons of Japanese ancestry, which included both citizens of 13 Latin American countries as well as Japanese immigrants. Like young Art Shibayama, the vast majority were Japanese Peruvians. Half a century later, Art retraces their journey and uncovers their hidden history. The first Japanese migrants to reach Peru arrived aboard the Sakura Maru in 1899 as contract laborers hired to work mainly in agriculture. However, these early years were marked by a rapid move from the plantations to the cities.
Hacia los años 20, 30, cuando la mayoría de inmigrantes que trabajó en las haciendas y luego de ahorrado un pequeño capital, logran ir hacia las principales ciudades de la costa peruana, se instalan como comerciantes o tenedores de pequeños negocios, ¿no? En el área de servicios, comercio, etc.
My grandparents had a department store where they sold clothing and jewelry and things like that.
Like Art's grandparents, more and more first-generation immigrants, or Issei, began to find success in a variety of commercial ventures. As these early pioneers quickly became settlers, they set about to establish roots and raise families in their new homeland.
It was an idyllic living situation for any child at that time. I mean, two parents, a loving home, comfortable home, and a father who spent a lot of time with his kids.
We used to visit all the plantation on a weekend, Go one weekend we'll go here, another weekend we'll go over here. On a weekend my father will drive. He even took me to the horse racing in Lima, and I was little, and he'll take me, he'll go on a weekend.
Summer vacation, I used to go down to Callao where my grandparents lived and stay the whole summer there because I was near the beach. My grandparents used to go swimming before they opened the store, so they would go 6 o'clock in the morning and I'd tag along with them and then come home and they had to open the store and I'd stick around till around maybe lunchtime, and then I go back to the beach again to meet my friends. And I stay there until maybe 5, 6 o'clock and then come home.
By the 1930s, as the world was entering into a global depression, there were well over 20,000 persons of Japanese ancestry living in Peru. Unfortunately, troubling times were just around the corner. With worsening global economic conditions, the more successful members of the Japanese Peruvian community were soon regarded by many in Peru as unfair economic competition. Fear and hostility were also fanned by Japanese military incursions in Asia and a virulent anti-Japanese press at home.
Entonces se crea como un clima de malestar y conflicto con respecto a la comunidad japonesa en el Perú. Y uno de sus puntos más altos se presenta en mayo de 1940, cuando esta campaña de desprestigio y esta campaña antijaponesa se expresa por un saqueo organizado.
Tenía 11 años, bueno, cuando hubo saqueo, ¿no? Ese famoso saqueo, vivíamos en esta misma casa.
Hubo un grupo de saqueadores que quisieron entrar al negocio de mi padre, ¿no?
Como sabía que en esta casa vive una familia japonesa, entonces empezaron a tirar piedras.
Y los empleados que trabajaban junto con mi padre, inclusive los peruanos, ayudaron para que no puedan saquear el negocio.
Entonces esa noche un amigo de mi papá, amigo de negocio, ¿no? Creo que de aduana que trabajaba, vino en su carro, dijo que tiene que salir de esa casa porque es peligroso.
Y se fueron. Gracias a Dios en el saqueo no sufrió daños el negocio de mi padre.
While the Hayashi business escaped damage, others were not so lucky. By the end of the rioting, about 600 businesses, schools, and homes were seriously damaged and looted. To make matters worse, the riots were soon followed by a devastating earthquake.
Vino el terremoto y todos los peruanos que saquearon las tiendas de los japoneses pidieron disculpas a todos los japoneses porque creyeron de que el terremoto fue un castigo de Dios.
As the community was recovering, political conditions were deteriorating. Anti-Japanese hysteria had set in. Unfounded reports of Japanese subversive activity soon led to increased restrictions on migration and land ownership. As war mounted in Europe and Asia, the U.S. sought to gain control of Western Hemispheric security.
Also in Brazil, there were 260,000 Japanese taking orders from Japan. In Ecuador, within easy bombing range of the Panama Canal, German airlines had been established. Here was a fifth column, ready to take over. In Havana, we met with 20 other American republics.
There must not be a shadow of a doubt anywhere as to the determination of the American nation not to permit the invasion of their hemisphere by the armed forces of any power or any possible combination of powers.
I remember on December 7th, 1941, my father went to play tennis, and he came right back and told us, hey, war started. And then he said, well, I guess we're going to have a tough time because I know Peru is going to go with the United States. I remember that.
Shortly after the Japanese military attack on Pearl Harbor, community leaders were scapegoated and rounded up for detention throughout the Americas. In Peru, a blacklist had been generated. While not based on any real or credible evidence of Japanese subversive activity, the blacklist targeted businessmen, community leaders, and educators. In collaboration with Peruvian officials, the U.S. used the blacklist as the basis for rounding up hostages. These hostages were then to be traded for Americans held by Japan. In addition to a convenient means of expelling the economic competition, Peru had much to gain in its relationship with the United States.
El gobierno de la época obtuvo cierta ventaja con respecto a préstamos, por ejemplo, de parte del gobierno norteamericano.
The United States lends Peru $25 million and signs a reciprocal trade agreement. Peru will receive American arms under a lend-lease agreement.
With Peru's full cooperation, the kidnappings began.
Every time a U.S. transport came into the Port of Callao, words got around and people, the head of the families, went into hiding, my father included. When the police came to our house several times looking for him, and the last time, again, not finding him, they took my mother and put her in jail. My sister, who was 11 at the time, went with her because she didn't want our mother to go by herself. You know, as soon as my father found out about it, he came out. He gave himself up.
Aboard U.S. Army transports, they were taken. For weeks, Art was stuck below deck, shipped off with his family to an unknown destination and an uncertain future.
After 21 days, we arrived in New Orleans, and the women and children were let off the ship first and marched to a warehouse, and they were ordered to strip and stand in line naked. My sister, who was 11 at that time, said that she never felt so humiliated that she had to strip in front of boys.
We got off the ship, they put us in a big room like a warehouse, and everybody has to take their clothes off, you know. So we were all naked, and they started spraying us with something.
They shot DDT on your head, your arm, and the vitals. Boy, we felt like cattle, because we had to line up and then just go shh, 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 shh.
It took us 2 days, 2 nights from New Orleans to Crystal City, and during that time we had to keep the shades down.
Most of the Japanese Latin Americans were interned in a Department of Justice camp at Crystal City, Texas. A 10-foot fence, guard towers, and floodlights surrounded this camp. The camp also held persons of Italian and German ancestry from the United States and Latin America, as well as Japanese Americans.
Barracks, like our army barracks, plain.
Though they had lost both their freedom and their homes, most chose to hide their fears of an uncertain future from their children. During the internment, over 800 Japanese Latin Americans were included in 2 prisoner exchanges, which set sail from New York.
ニューヨークへ着いて、私は一番先殺されました。看護婦さん2人で両手抱えられて、おろり。でね、船の中でお産した人が3人だからいたんですよね。だからその人たちは担架で。
Those who were not exchanged remained confined in Department of Justice camps until the end of the war.
And in Chicago, more than 1 million sing and dance in the streets in the biggest celebration the Windy City has ever seen. Joy is unconfined.
But for Art and the other internees, their long ordeal did not end with the close of World War II. The remaining Japanese Latin Americans were told that they were illegal aliens and would be deported. And because the Latin American governments initially refused to allow these internees to return, over 1,000 were thus deported to war-devastated Japan.
When we arrived in Hiroshima, we got off the train, we walked and walked and walked. When we saw the city, there was nothing, no building. And some people were still, the wounded, and they all looked so poor, and we were saying, gee, what a place, this is where, so we're going to live. One of my cousins was a doctor, And everybody had to go and help, into the city because all the hospitals were destroyed. And so he got this radiation, He passed away a few years later, too, just for treating the, patients.
Meanwhile, as the camps were closing, Art's family, along with a few hundred others, were determined not to share the same fate as those who had been deported. With the help of attorney Wayne Collins, they fought the deportation and were paroled to work in Seabrook Farms, a vegetable processing plant in New Jersey.
Seabrook Farms in South New Jersey is America's biggest, most fabulous truck garden, whose 15,000 acres surround a vegetable processing plant.
From the white part forward is all gone.
That's where I used to work, on the second floor.
On the second floor?
Yeah, feeding
feeding the thing through the holes into the floor, down to the packing line. Yeah, well, that part of the building still exists. Boy, we worked like hell. I was in Seabrook. I was 13 years old. We never had a summertime, the leisure, and so on, because we worked since I was 13. Every summer, we worked. We wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and truck will come and pick us up at 6 and in front of the cafeteria in Seabrook and take us to the green beans field. And will give us a roll, and we have to pick the bushel of basket, which is 30 pounds of green beans. And you have to go like this and pick. And in 12 hours, I was one of the fastest, and I could only pick 10 baskets. And it was 30 cents a basket for 12 hours. So I get $3, and then they deduct 30% for income tax because we were on the illegal aliens. So we may run away without paying income tax or filing tax return, so they take 30% off. So I get $2.10. Isn't that ridiculous?
After we went to Seabrook, my father couldn't feed a family of 8 because my mother was pregnant. She couldn't work, so my sister and I had to go to work. So I never went to school again.
Still fighting deportation, many families decided to settle in the United States, as they saw no hope in ever returning home. For Art's family, this meant resettling in Chicago.
I guess that's around the place where we used to live when we moved from Seabrook.
Yeah, our building used to be right there by that playground where the playground is.
There hasn't been a dance hall in a long time.
Like many of his fellow Peruvians, Art set out to create a new life in Chicago, where his family began applying to become legal residents. But fate again intervened in 1952, as Art was drafted to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces, despite the fact that he was still classified as an illegal alien. Though he served his duty in Europe during the Korean War, Art would not be granted permanent residency until 1956.
When I come back from the Army, you guys were living here.
After returning from service, Art soon married a young woman named Betty. Together, they started a family of their own. After working for several years as an auto mechanic in Chicago, Art brought his family out to California and started his own service station in San Jose, where he eventually retired. And though World War II had long since ended, for Art and the former internees, their long struggle would not fade with retirement.
The legislation that I am about to sign
provides for a restitution payment to each of the 60,000 survivors. Surviving Japanese Americans of the 120,000 who were relocated or detained. Yet no payment can make up for those lost years. So what is most important in this bill has less to do with property than with honor. For here we admit a wrong. Here we reaffirm our commitment as a nation to equal justice under the law.
However, Art was denied justice. Under this law, Japanese Latin Americans were deemed ineligible for redress as they were not U.S. citizens or residents at the time of internment.
But now, you know, it's not like we wanted to come here. We didn't want to come here. We were forced to come here. We were brought here by the government. So how can that be illegal? That don't make sense.
In an effort to call attention to their hidden history and to support efforts for redress, the Campaign for Justice was formed.
The Campaign for Justice started in 1996, and it was founded by individuals and organizations who wanted to seek redress for Japanese Latin Americans. It was founded during the time of the Mochizuki lawsuit when that was filed, which sought to get redress for Japanese Latin Americans who were denied under the Civil Liberties Act.
In response to public pressure, the Department of Justice offered a settlement of only $5,000 each, just 1/4 of the $20,000 redress provided to the Japanese Americans.
I wanted to get the equal justice. I wanted to regain the dignity for my parents.
While supporting the decision of those who accepted the settlement, Art Shibayama, along with several others, chose to opt out of the settlement. He then filed his own lawsuit, preferring to fight for both redress and a full disclosure of the violations committed by the United States during World War II.
Until the crime is over, meaning it has been fully acknowledged and fully compensated, it is ongoing.
Ese es el punto. Ese es el punto que tienen que reconocerlo. Que si quieren ser justos, que sean justos con todo y que reconozcan sus errores.
Despite his efforts, Art was once again denied justice. His case was dismissed in the final months of 2002. Having exhausted their efforts through domestic courts, Art and the campaign have appealed to the international community by filing a petition with the Organization of American States. In addition to the legal route, the campaign is also pursuing a congressional resolution which would resolve all remaining redress issues. This includes granting equitable redress for the former internees and providing educational funding, as originally mandated by the 1988 Civil Liberties Act.
The significance of the Wartime Parity and Justice Act is to try to finally write the final lines of that chapter in American history, and we need to do it soon because there aren't too many people living today who can tell you from their personal experience what we did.
This marker is situated on the original foundation of the two-family cottage as a reminder that this injustice and humiliations suffered here as a result of hysteria, racism, and discrimination never happen again.